Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
What's happening in Washington now could soon be felt here in San Diego. Thank you for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. As new tariffs go into effect, Congressman Mike Levin was in San Diego today, voicing his concerns for working families. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas was with the congressman at Feeding San Diego today, which stands to lose more than $1 million in USDA funding.
Don't let it sit and get it moving, which is exactly what we want.
Levin toured Feeding San Diego's warehouse today, where volunteers and staff organize fresh produce and canned goods. He says the tariffs will hurt families already struggling with the high cost of living.
It wasn't that long ago that we had the campaign and everybody was focused on lowering costs. At least that's what the promise was, that people were going to try to lower the cost of food, lower the costs across the board. But this is exactly the opposite of what we're seeing.
He's also worried about potential cuts to Medicaid and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP.
My wife and I have a 12-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter that are in a Title I public school. Both of them, have plenty of friends during COVID in particular that really relied on SNAP. CalFresh, their families get good, nutritious food through that program, and we need that program to thrive.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture has already cut 2 programs that provided more than $1 billion to schools and food banks. About half of that funding was for the Local Food Purchase Assistance Program, which allowed states to purchase food from local farmers.
We work with 24 farms, one as small as 4 acres, others up to 300 acres.
Bob Kamensky is Feeding San Diego's CEO. He says that funding has helped many of those farms stay in business.
They may not be there in another couple of years. You have to remember that the cycle on this is not turn it on, turn it off. They have to grow it first, but they have to grow knowing they're going to have a market to get it to.
Beyond that program, Feeding San Diego doesn't rely much on federal funding. But Kamensky says many of the people they serve do. And as costs for imported goods go up, that number could grow.
Those neighbors in our communities are going to have to look for an alternate source to help cover that hunger gap they're experiencing. We're already saturated.
He says that means Feeding San Diego will rely more heavily on private donors in order to meet growing demand for help. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
The White House says President Trump is firm in his sweeping global tariff plans. This even as markets drop, major banks up their recession odds, and countries around the world plot economic retaliation. Karen Kafa has the latest from Washington.
The U.S. markets dropped right out of the gate on Thursday morning, as did markets in Asia and in Europe. President Trump's tariff announcement marked a seismic shift in the global trade dynamic, but the president said on social media the operation is over, the patient lived, and is healing. Trump administration officials out to defend the president's trade plan, which Trump said Wednesday stands up for the American worker by encouraging countries to manufacture products in the U.S. with American labor. Vice President J.D. Vance told Fox News it's a big change, but a necessary one. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told CNBC the plan will prompt countries to reconsider their own tariff policies. And White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt sought to calm investors before Thursday's opening bell.
Trust in President Trump. This is a president who is doubling down on his proven economic formula from his first term. We saw wages increase. We saw inflation come down. We had a Trump energy boom. We had the largest tax cuts in history. And that's exactly what the president intends to do.
Economists project that tariffs will push costs for businesses and consumers higher, at odds with the president's campaign promise to lower prices for consumers.
If you buy avocados, if you buy Modelo beer, if you buy literally anything, if you go to the toy store and you're looking for toys for your children, you go to Walmart, you're looking to buy toys for your children, prices are going to rise because These are goods that are imported into this country that American consumers rely on.
JP Morgan's chief economist said that if Trump maintains the tariffs as announced, the U.S. will likely plunge into recession this year. Meanwhile, some trade partners like the EU and China already planning retaliatory moves. They do have a window to negotiate before reciprocal tariffs take effect next week. At the White House, I'm Karen Kafa.
Well, the scattered showers that we've been seeing throughout yesterday and today, that's going to continue into the overnight hours and into tomorrow as well. Overnight, we're dropping down to the low 50s, and of course, the clouds will be sticking around because of the scattered showers. We'll take a look at the rest of the week and the weekend ahead coming up.
The special election for San Diego County's District 1 supervisor is getting a lot of attention from outside political groups. KPBS South Bay reporter Corey Suzuki says they've already spent more than $2 million on the race.
If you live in the South Bay, you might be getting a lot of campaign mailers or texts about the special election for county supervisor. That's because outside groups are putting a bunch of money into the race, for and against the candidates. These groups have already spent millions of dollars on text blasts, canvassers, pamphlets, and digital ads. That's according to an analysis by Edgewater Strategies, a local political consulting firm. Mason Heron is a partner at Edgewater. He says this election will determine whether the Board of Supervisors leans left or right.
These supervisor races over the years have gotten pretty expensive because this race is seen as potentially deciding whether or not it's a 3-2 Republican majority or a 3-2 Democrat majority. You're seeing a relatively high amount of spending in this one too, I'd say.
The outcome will influence how the board votes on major issues like immigration, homelessness, and the cross-border sewage crisis. So far, most of the outside spending has been focused on the two top Democratic candidates, Imperial Beach Mayor Paloma Aguirre and San Diego City Council member Vivian Moreno, and the top Republican candidate, Chula Vista Mayor John McCann. It's not exactly clear yet what all this attention is going to mean for the election. Zoltan Heinel is a professor of political science at UCSD. He says turnout during special elections is usually pretty low, but the increased spending might encourage more people to vote.
Because this particular office is so consequential for the partisan majority of the board, you probably are seeing more mobilization and perhaps more early mobilization than you would otherwise see for a special election.
The last day to cast your ballot is Tuesday, April 8th. In the newsroom, Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
You can find out more about the special election, the candidates, where to vote, and whether you live in District 1 on our website. Just go to kpbs.org/voterhub. How young is too young to work long hours? It's a question that's igniting debate in Florida. Lawmakers in the state Senate there are advancing a bill that would loosen restrictions on the hours teens can work. Ivan Rodriguez reports on how some Floridians are reacting.
Last year, the Republican-led state legislature passed a law allowing parents, guardians, or school superintendents to waive the 30-hour work week limit for 16 and 17-year-olds during the school year. Now, this new proposal aims to do away with more child labor restrictions. For the owners of this classic America soda fountain in Tallahassee, loosening restrictions on child labor makes some sense.
Getting that half-hour break exactly at 4 hours or exactly at the right time so we don't violate is really hard to schedule.
For other business owners, it raises alarms.
We just hope it's not going to lead to kids having to make a tough decision as to whether they need to work or they can do those, things that everybody wants to do when they're kids.
A bill making its way through the Florida legislature would allow 16 and 17-year-olds to work more than 8 hours on a day when school is scheduled the next day and work over 30 hours a week during the school year without mandated meal breaks, and removes overnight work restrictions on 14 and 15-year-olds who are homeschooled, attend virtual school, or have already graduated. Governor Ron DeSantis argues this will help fill positions left by deported migrants.
What's wrong with expecting our young people to be working part-time now? I mean, that's how it used to be when I was growing up.
Do you believe that this bill would have an impact on a child's development?
Absolutely, because we already are seeing high levels of absenteeism.
Sadaf Knight with the Florida Policy Institute says children can already work longer hours through a waiver process involving parents, guardians, or a school superintendent.
Parents are essentially being excluded from the process of the decision-making around how long and how much their kids work.
The number of child labor violations in Florida has nearly tripled in recent years, according to the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics. Legislative analysis of the bill says it will increase opportunities to generate income for certain individuals and employers and could have a positive economic impact on the private sector. If passed, the law will take effect July 1st. In Atlanta, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
I'm Amna Navaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, the global response to President Trump's blanket tariffs on goods imported into the United States. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
An estimated 2 million people in the U.S. will be diagnosed with cancer this year alone, that according to the American Cancer Society. But new research released today suggests 4 things can lower the risk of dying from the disease. Mandy Gaither has the details.
It's a devastating diagnosis. Cancer can make a patient feel like so much is out of their control. But a new study suggests there are things that can be done to lower risk of dying from an obesity-related cancer diagnosis.
I think that that's a great message of not being able to feel hopeless that, well, I've had my treatment now. It's out of my hands.
American Cancer Society scientist Alpa Patel is senior author of a new study that shows 4 factors that can improve the odds of survival after an obesity-related cancer diagnosis. Avoiding obesity, staying physically active, eating a healthy diet, and limiting alcohol intake. Patel says survivors of non-smoking obesity-related cancers studied in the U.S. who mostly adhered to these healthy lifestyle choices after their diagnosis had a 24% overall lower risk of dying compared to those who didn't make as many healthy choices.
Even if you are not perfectly following these guidelines, the more you adhere to them, the better your odds of surviving your cancer diagnosis are.
Patel says that even if a person with cancer wasn't making healthy lifestyle choices before they found out they have the disease, choosing to be healthier post-diagnosis can help them.
It's a great opportunity for clinicians to reinforce to their patients, as well as for patients themselves to know that it's not too late to start after that diagnosis.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
For more than a decade, Shelter to Soldier has helped veterans suffering from mental illness by pairing them with a shelter dog. Now the program is expanding. Shelter to Soldier adopts dogs from local shelters and professionally trains them to become service or emotional support dogs for veterans. The organization says it is now accepting applications from first responders and healthcare workers.
The big push was the LA wildfires. You know, we saw how devastating that was to us as a community, kind of looking at it happening, and really thought about, you know, the people that were there every single day.
You can go to a therapist, you can talk to your partner, you can talk to your family, but it just never makes sense, it never translates to them. And again, the dog can sense when I'm anxious or tense, and then that's all she cares about. She wants to make sure I'm okay.
All first responders qualify for the program. You can apply now online at sheltertosoldier.org. The city of San Diego is renaming a block in North Park Lucky Lane. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson says it's to honor the man who served their community for 50 years.
Lucky Wong opened Lucky's Golden Phoenix restaurant in North Park in 1975. For half a century, he cracked eggs and jokes there. He gave Christmas gifts to customers, remembered their orders by heart, cooking and serving them himself.
He's an example of how one person can impact many. And I think anyone can do that.
North Park changed, but Lucky and his prices never did. A full breakfast plate for under $10, a San Diego miracle. One customer called it a place for the crustiest of punks and the bluest of collars.
After a rough night, or after a rough month, it was the place that they could afford, or the place that they could sit and be made to feel at home.
That's Matt Lyons. He owns Tribute Pizza across the street and created the petition to rename this block of Grimm Avenue Lucky Lane. Within weeks, more than 4,000 people signed. Lucky died in December at 90, in the same place he lived, his restaurant. Lyons said Lucky had tried to sell it to him, to keep it going.
I told him that I didn't think that his legacy was that counter or that old Coke machine. That his legacy was him and the community and the love.
Lions is raising money for the cost of changing the sign.
But I think that we're going to raise $3,000 in about 5 minutes.
Any extra will become seed money for the Lucky Wong Memorial Scholarship for underprivileged culinary students in San Diego. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
KPBS launched a new arts and culture podcast today called The Finest. The podcast captures the people, art, and movements redefining our region's cultural identity. And joining me to discuss the project is KPBS arts reporter and host of The Finest, Julia Dixon Evans. And Julia, let's start with the name. How did you guys come up with The Finest?
Well, I mean, it's coming from America's Finest City, which gets thrown around a lot, and we really wanted to dig into what is it that makes this region so fine. And I think that for me and for our team, it's looking at the art and the people that are making creativity and community happen in San Diego. So that's what we really want to dig in on those stories.
You know, when you hear stuff like this, I think something a lot of people think is, what inspired this? So what did inspire this podcast?
I mean, we've been talking about this for a really long time, this idea of wanting to spend more time with stories, go deeper, tell more of a human story to what's behind the news, what's behind the arts. And so that is definitely what has inspired and continues to inform and motivate our work on The Finest.
One of the cool things about KPBS, we do that kind of stuff. Of course, there are a lot of podcasts out there. There are a lot of podcasts on KPBS. How will this one stand out?
Well, I think for one, it's the format and the style. Like, it's very well produced. It's very like documentary style, journalistic, and we're really trying to go for this immersive storytelling. Like, you will feel like you're there. You'll feel like you're in the studio with this artist or in this restaurant. So yeah, it's definitely the format is one, and then the other is the kind of broad approach we have to arts and culture. We're definitely leaning in on the culture side of things. So we're thinking about sports, the outdoors, nature, restaurants, all of that stuff. So.
Okay, and I understand you have a preview for us of one of your upcoming stories.
Right, so the Mingay is opening an exhibit this weekend called Fashioning an Icon. It is about the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe in fashion, style, clothing, jewelry, all sorts of stuff. So here's a preview. Clothing, jewelry, and accessories can be expressions of individual style and communal trends. They're part of our daily lives, typically functional, yet often meaningful. At the Mingay, more than 70 garments and adornments also share a unifying element, the icon of the Virgin of Guadalupe. Curator Ariana Torres grew up surrounded by the image. She says the exhibit not only explores the Virgin's significance, but also how she's represented in textiles.
It's all about exploring the Virgin as a popular icon that has really grown past just being a religious symbol alone, and really exploring her through the medium of textiles, garments, and accessories.
The Virgin of Guadalupe is often depicted wearing a starry cape, head tilted down, and framed by a vibrant sunburst. Artist and So Loca founder Claudia Rodriguez Bizanski incorporates the icon into her upcycled fashion designs.
It is a symbol of hope, resilience. It reminds me of my grandma a lot. I feel like the modern version is like a lot of fun because you're seeing it a lot in like Chicano culture, and so you're seeing it more like in like lowriders, like nail art, a lot of like tattoos. Traditionally, they're like, whoa, you don't, you know, that's not like where you would see the Virgencita, and so it's really cool to be able to see her in a different kind of way.
Local artist Deanna Benavides has a piñata-inspired piece depicting the Virgin's cape, crafted in crepe paper and plastic.
Her piece is called Even Guadalupe Needs a Break, and it's all about how the Virgin of Guadalupe, at the end of a very long day of miracles and apparitions, has taken off her cloak and placed it on a cloak stand.
Local photographer Ariana Yitzhak also has a series of her photography on display. The exhibit's on view at the Mingay Saturday through September 7th.
Well, that looks really great. I look forward to that and your other upcoming stories. Thank you so much, Julia.
Thank you, John.
All right. You can find The Finest and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. The first episode is out today, with new episodes coming out on Thursdays.
Well, we've seen some rainfall really throughout the week. It's been very scattered, and that's the trend that's going to continue through tomorrow. We do have a chance of some thunderstorms, mostly in our inland areas, not up into the mountains, for example, but we are going to warm up into the weekend as the system passes. So let's break it down step by step, starting with what to expect for tonight. So really across the board, we're hanging on to the clouds. Some of us hanging on to some of that scattered rain. Oceanside, we're dropping down to 50. San Diego dropping down to 53. 29 is your low in Mount Laguna, and 46 over in Borrego Springs. Again, tomorrow hanging on to the clouds, not seeing as many over in places like Borrego Springs because we won't be seeing that chance of scattered rain, but that does continue just about everywhere else further inland and towards the coast. Now, this is where we have the chance of some scattered thunderstorms as well, so just don't be surprised if you hear some thunder, see some lightning, and of course head inside if you do. Temperature wise, we're at 64 in Oceanside, low 60s in San Diego, 30s in Mount Laguna. Here's a look at the scattered rain that we are looking at. We'll see some snow mixed in up in the mountains, but mainly it's just rain hanging on into the coast here. As we go throughout our Thursday, we're right around noon. We're seeing some of the scattered rainfall, some heavier at times as we head into the evening hours, and then that will end up moving out of here. Taking a look at your 5-day outlook for the coast, Thursday is the only day that we are still dealing with that rain. We clear out otherwise for the end of the week, and take a look at how the temperatures increase from Thursday to Friday. We're going from the mid-60s to the upper 60s, and the warming trend that continues as we head through the weekend. Sunday seeing our highest high in the mid-70s there, and then we start to cool down. Further inland, we are jumping from the low 60s to the upper 60s by Friday. Totally sunny skies for the weekend. We get to the 80s by Sunday. Then our mountain outlook, we're in the 30s, up into the 40s for Friday and Saturday, to the 50s by Sunday. And of course, seeing more of that sunshine Saturday and Sunday as well. It's a similar trend in the desert, but we get to the 80s by Saturday, upper 80s by Sunday, even 90 for your Monday. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather's Anna Azalian.
The arrival of San Diego FC has brought more than just another professional sports team. It's also bringing excitement to youth soccer fields throughout San Diego. Coaches for the Rebels Youth Soccer Club in Chula Vista say they're seeing more kids interested in the game thanks to SDFC and the Wave. Their players got to participate in the pre-game festivities during the last SDFC home game. They told our media partner KGTV young players are motivated to work on their skills in hopes that one day they'll be wearing those same jerseys.
I'm so grateful for it, you know? Like, it's so awesome how we can connect with some of the greatest players, and we can talk with them.
I want to play soccer when I grow up because you can just like develop more fun, more like job, and you can get like money if you can.
And please do join us tomorrow for Soccer a la Frontera, where we look at soccer's cultural growth in the San Diego-Tijuana region. The series was produced by KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer, who walks us through the 50-year history of soccer in our region, from the streets to stadiums. It starts at 8:30 tomorrow night in place of KPBS News This Week. The eyes of the basketball world this week are on the men's and women's Final Four, and for San Diegans, it may bring back an exciting memory of how close one of our local teams came to a national championship in 2023. But as Ken Kramer shows us, there was another team decades ago that actually won it all.
It's Butler with 2 seconds. He's got to put it up, and he wins it with the jumper.
Whatever the future brings, I think this one moment will forever live in our city's sports memory. All the things that follow will be traced back to this emotional turning point. Finally, unquestionably, the Aztecs were of championship caliber. Never before had they gone this far. Never had they created so much excitement in San Diego, right? Never. Except maybe once. It doesn't get noticed a lot, but look, there's the banner at Viejas, men's basketball 1941 national champions. Really? Yes, they were, and here they are. Now, to understand what a big deal this was, for 2 straight years, the Aztecs had gone all the way to the national championship game, only to lose. It was devastating. But then in 1941, Kansas City Convention Center, they did it. They beat Murray State. And here's the campus newspaper, the Daily Aztec, a few days later. Team's coming home. Come meet the team down at the Union Depot tonight at 10:30. Do what you have to, just get there. President Hepner, Mayor P.J. Benbow, the whole town showed up. And yes, it wasn't the NCAA, it was the smaller National Intercollegiate Basketball Championship. But that team from 1941 went all the way and won it all, and that is a fact worth remembering about San Diego.
Ken Kramer has a half hour of stories every week about San Diego. You can see them Thursday nights at 8 here on KPBS. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition talks to the NCAA president about a proposed settlement with college athletes for making direct payments to players for their name, image, and likeness. And KPBS Roundtable is hosting a discussion on the latest developments at our southern border, including anxiety related to immigration, travel, and crossing. And of course, you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm John Carroll. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.